Okay.
It's so funny. The thing that I wanted to share on the screen is not on the screen. I'm going to put it on the screen though. All right. See, folks was getting used to us being late, but see, we starting to get a little bit early up in here, okay? We catching on, we catching on. We getting this thing down. I got it. Today, on Women of the Stars, Steve Noack is honoring us with his present. I'm just feeling really good because we had a nice little clearing before we got started. So y'all can be sure if you watch this, it's gonna be fresh and it's gonna be clean, y'all. So today it's me, the First Lady Erica.
Dad Brad.
The astrologer.
You call me Astro Dad, really.
Astro Dab.
Astro Dab.
Revan.
Marvel.
And Marvel Bliss. You can't leave out your Bliss, girl. Never forget your
Marvel Bliss.
So it's so cool to be here today with Steve. I've seen him as a Facebook friend for some time now. But before we get started, I just want to take a moment to tell you the whole reason why we're even on this channel. We are believers in disclosure, and we're believers in healing, and we're believers in bringing the truth and the light, right? So that's why we just joined together as a team to help present these things for people. And we also strongly believe in sovereignty, that each person has their own path and their own journey, and they have to find that way for themselves. They have to find the way, right? You got your own path, your own journey. A lot of times we get to see people on a YouTube channel or whatever, and it's like they're a celebrity, and we're just like, oh, this person, oh, that person. I'm not going to name any names, but your journey is not that person's journey. And so what we do is find different people in the community, different healers with different modalities. They have different methods of healing. They have different beliefs. They have different diets, different eating habits, different kinds of prayers and thoughts, and different backgrounds and histories. And I think it's so important to share things like that so that you know you can be a follower, but you don't want to be a follower. You know what I'm saying? You can follow people's channel, but you're not here to be a follower of anyone but your source and your guides. You know what I'm saying? And you have to find sovereignty in this journey because it is just that it's your journey. So today, sharing with us his journey, we have Steve Noack, like I said, and he is a NDE survivor who does 0-point healing. He's very much a follower of Christ, and we're going to get him to explain what that means. As a psychic healer, you know, what is his definition of Christ? What's his definition of God and Holy Spirit? These things, so that you can understand where he's coming from. At a very young age, he was struck by a motor vehicle, and this left him connected to the quantum field and able to have different strengths and abilities than before. But even later on, he had another near-death experience where he was thrown from a vehicle. And we're just going to go through his journey and his life to find out how these things affected him, how it changed him, what he does as a healer, and, you know, the different kinds of services that he has. But just, if nothing else, another example of a different journey so that he relates to you, you relate to him, and we can all have some fun today. Steve.
How's it going? Nice to be here.
Good to see you. You're like Mr. So Calm and Peaceful. And I'm going to start talking to you about some lady stuff too in the middle, because the thing that stood out to me the most was that different posts that you made, and it made it very obvious that you as a healer were being hit on basically by some by some ladies and things like that. And you had some very interesting responses about holding your own space. So I will reserve that, and we can start with your story of the healing that you do. Let's start with the kind of healing that you do.
Okay. Basically, I do 0-point healing. I have a large enough electrical charge, bioelectrical charge, and I can gather this within myself and then send my photons, my biophotons, through quantum entanglement and raise another person's frequency into a 0-point field. Basically is the maximum ground of an energetic system. So then you start to release these grounds of trauma and all these triggered behavioral responses, as well as the density within your body, the physical pain, where you have injuries, things like that. Do you want me to kind of say how it came about, like my near death or no?
Yeah. So how did that all exactly, like, how did that all get started?
Well, actually, let me back up. Basically what I'm able to do with that large enough charge within me, from the self-work in this connection, is cause what's known as action potential on the nervous system. So all the negative charges in the cellular membrane start to come together as one. And this light is being channeled from the quantum field through me to this person, and it's bringing them up to my frequency, or up to their frequency, really, because it's helping them remember what they are, you know? And that's what I want them to get out of it, is that anybody can do what I can do. Anybody can be what I can be. And that this love that I know as the Christ, or like we talked about earlier, law of one, different name, logos, is available to everybody inside them. You know, I'm not special. I'm nobody different.
Wow. So wait a minute. You said, can you go ahead and define that for me? Like, what is your definition of God and source and the Christ? Because you use the word Christ a lot. And I've heard people say Christ consciousness, and then there's Jesus Christ. So can you explain?
Yeah, it's all mixed up. Christ is basically love physically embodied to me. Christ is, everything came from Christ that we see here, created. But it's also in other religions, to me, I came to know it as the law of one, the Brahman, in Indian Buddhist religion, the singularity, which it'll be known as in the future, because we're becoming a singular aspect of God in the flesh at this moment. So the Christ is a part of that. And for me, it became a trinity. It became a circuit that I would have circulating through my body. I would ask the pure spirit to come down from above. I would ask the spirit that's already in me, because the spirit of Christ is within us, to expand. So as this energy came down, it hit this energy that was already in me. It expands. And now I form a higher self as I ask God to surround me. And that is, to me, became that image of God we were made in, divine blueprint. Hopefully that's not too technical.
No, I think there's some pretty technical folks out there. And so
it became a circuit that was running through all people, that I realized you can expand and carry more data, carry more life force energy, and kind of command yourself and operate more like a computer system. Since we absorb data, waking consciousness became an operating system to me. Subconscious became the hard drive where I stored all my programs. And I became really interested in myself, and I wanted to dig through to see why I behaved the way I did, why I went through certain trials, things like that. And that eventually broke open what I know to be as the Christ, or the portal, a portal of love within me that I can operate.
Would this be considered Reiki?
Not really. I started as Reiki. That was the very first thing I took was Asui Reiki. And that was when I was probably 10, 15 years ago when I was first starting to have all my memories of my NDE come back. It was like 2008. Because I was 4 years old when I had the first one. And there was a long period of time where I knew something had happened, but I couldn't access the memories. But I could feel the feelings, and it was different. And then when I had the second one, the same voice that spoke to me during the first one spoke to me again. And then my mind just turned into noodles. And there was all this stuff going on, and I thought I was nuts. I thought I would go to the hospital.
Interesting.
But yeah, it started as Reiki, studying Reiki, searching for myself, and then expanded into 0 point.
Well, explain what exactly happened to you when you were 4?
Okay, so I was leaving my driveway, driving a plastic big wheel, a little tricycle. And I came out between 2 cars, and a drunk driver came, and she hit me and basically ran me completely over, and I got stuck under the car. The big wheel was the only thing that saved me. So I remember going down, and then it's a blur, and then I can see myself, and my eyes are rolling in the back of my head, and I sort of faded away. I got pulled up and faded away. And next thing I know, I wake up, and my head is down, and it's looking down. I open my eyes, and I can see long, white, almost silver hair. It was probably about 6 inches from the ground. And I'm leaning on someone. There's no medical equipment or anything like that. We're in some kind of room. I'm leaning on them, and I turned to look at them. I could see the bottom of their robe as well. They had like a silver, whitish robe. And when I turned to look at them, they had no face. It was only light in place of their face. And it made me want to lean in, get closer. When I did, I could see a place that was pure, and I instantly knew that no pain could exist there, no misery, no hate, and all the things that we experience in this world. So the colors were breathing, they were alive. I mean, it was beautiful. And then that's when I asked if I could go there. They basically told me no, not yet, and talked about a walk-in for the time of Ascension, which is when another advanced soul would integrate with yours, basically. And that's kind of where I got all this. You know, I never went to school for quantum physics, things like that. So they showed me a beam of light, which was me in the middle, and I was in the center of like a medicine wheel. And they were showing me that you send out your energy to this field and you get it back, and that's how you interpret reality. That's how you interact with reality. You're spending your energy of creation. And we talked a little bit more about quantum healing. We talked about angels and demons being a part of us as frequencies that exist within us to resonate as and grant human experience. Obviously, everything was within. They showed me the quantum field and the blueprint, and they told me every living creature has a like a blueprint there, like the Akashic records, what I later came to know it as, and that we could go there and get this. We can do our life review while we were alive. We could ascend, in other words. There was a bit more, but I'll let you break so I can take a drink.
And this was during your 4-year-old experience.
Right, which all the memories came back as I had the second one. That's what we talked about, that they would be back. And sure enough, they did, man. One day it was like a sun landed in my stomach. And that's the other thing. I came to know the Christ as the sun. And it was we are suns in skin, basically.
Mm. You got a lot of answers that like people are waiting 30, 40 years to get, and you got them as a 4-year-old.
Right, but I couldn't process it all, of course.
Right.
I couldn't comprehend anything. I knew I wanted to leave.
Wow. I mean, what was your childhood like?
It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. My dad and mom divorced. My dad was always working. My mom would go out and do her thing. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and nobody'd be around. So I'd cross the street to the neighbors, same neighbors that I got, the driveway I got hit out of. Just a lot of turmoil. My mom kicked me out when I was like 13. I became very self-absorbed, dated a lot of girls, and didn't think about other people. I didn't have that depth to create that empathy within me, to create the signal between me and life. I was numb. I became very numb. From the accidents, I stayed on my pain medication too long. I played sports too, which didn't help. I stayed on for like 5 to 10 years and it robbed years of my life. And I beat that myself basically through the energy I have now. I don't take anything for pain. I rely solely on looking at how much pain I have one day and understanding it's time for me to cleanse and transmute that density. And then my body will lighten up. Because of everything I've been through, I've just kind of figured out in my mind, that's how you handle it.
So when you're working with your patients, you use some of the examples of your bottoms, your lows, to help them understand that that is not an excuse or a reason to stay where you're at. It actually shows them that they can have victory. Like, do you mind sharing one of the lows so that like the people understand, like, you can?
Oh gosh, I could say suicidal from the medication I was on, taking like 20 something pain pills a day just to get through. And then you're not even yourself anymore. And it was so dark at that period in my life, many years ago, but it was so dark that my only option was to turn to God and say, prove you're real, because I was angry. I knew God existed, but I didn't think he liked me, he or she.
Were you ever an atheist though, at any point?
Never an atheist. Mm-hmm. I knew I could feel there was something beyond what I could comprehend as this. I'm like, this can't be it, but never atheist. But I was angry at God. There has to be a God for me to be angry at, right?
Right. I don't really understand atheism because
in order for you to not believe in it, you're acknowledging it.
You're basing science off of something that you can feel. A lot of people are in their right brain instead of your left brain, or the left brain. It's left brain, yeah. So
left brain prisoners.
Yeah. So when they base that off of that and not use the other side of their brain, which is the spiritual aspect, that can definitely lead to atheism. If just not feeling, being able to feel the spiritual aspect of it, It's all about the
right. Whatever I felt before when I was younger, I always went searching to church. Even as a child, I'd be like, in a teenager in high school, like I would try to like go to church. But whenever I was just finally just done with churches, then I still felt there was God. So I said, I'm agnostic. And so I know there's something, I didn't know what the way to be close to him was, besides that I didn't really need anybody else to help me do it. But I knew that, it just wasn't church. I just didn't feel it in church. And I've been to a lot of churches. So were you ever agnostic, but because I know I already asked you, were you ever atheist? And you said no.
No, I'm nothing. I pride myself on that because I can stay open to all the religions, everything that comes my way. I can feel the parts that are God and the parts that aren't. Right. And that brings me to like when I first awoke and heard this voice, and when I flipped my car over 5 times doing 75 miles an hour, people flew out of the car.
5 times it flipped over. You have 3 other people in the car?
there were 5 total in the
Oh,
car.
it's full of 5 people.
And when it came to a stop, there was only two left in the car. And everybody walked away, survived, literally walked away.
Wow.
And as I was out and under, and they were going to give me surgery, that's when I heard the voice talk to me from the 4-year-old NDE. And it said, "Stephen, put your head down. Everything is going to be all right." And that's when something in my mind cracked. And all of a sudden I could see all these silhouettes around me, and they were moving, and they looked like people silhouettes. And some were dark, some were lighter. Later on, I figured out that was me broadcasting into the field. And that's when they were basically entities at the time. So that's when I woke up to myself, and these entities were telling me what a piece of crap I was. I wasn't worthy of anything. Nobody will ever love you. And it started to run on the left side of my brain. You know, we were just talking about that. It started to run right here, and I could feel the pressure, and I couldn't shut it off. And after a while, I realized, okay, something's hijacking something here. If this is me, then I'm going to change my energy. If it's feeding on lower feelings, lower thoughts. And I had to walk through that scary experience to figure out how to do it for others and kind of guide them when they awaken and expand, because they're going to experience things too, you know?
Are you saying that all the entities around you were literally you, or?
Yeah, they were all silhouettes vibrating at different frequencies, slices of energy or data of myself. Others came in later, like I would help other spirit, basically fragments is what I call them. I would help them move on.
Oh.
But that came a little later. I had to kind of like walk through figuring out this energetic puzzle.
But you even said like your 4-year-old NDE voice. And what do you mean by that? Like,
just a voice that of the light being that I came to know as Elohim.
okay.
They were, it was their voice comes with an energy, and it just sounds a certain way. And that's basically what happened to me in the second one, was that energy flowed through me. And I was like, somebody hit me like a tuning fork, and I was in another place, you know?
So at the time, were you living single on your own, or you're married?
Living with my father, I think, at the time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Both of the times.
And then you come home, you're hearing voices, and you're recovering. And what happens? Like, how are you expressing yourself now? Because now I'm thinking you're expressing yourself totally differently.
I just want to make sure nobody else wants to chime in.
Oh.
Hi, Steve. This is Marvel Bliss.
Hello.
Listening to your story, it's very, very incredible. Thank you so much for sharing it. I just wanted to go back a little bit and talk about the photonic aspect that you're working with. Mm-hmm. So maybe people can understand a little more, and just mention to the folks out there that may not be aware of it, but the new quantum computers, this is how their processor works, is by using photonic light to send messages instantaneously to other processors. Granted, we of course want to stay away from the artificial quantum technologies, the AI.
Yes, they're quantum computing through human beings' nervous system.
Correct. Sure. And I would rather focus on how this healing is instantaneous, and the process of opening other people up to taking in that full photonic light spectrum down to the subatomic and DNA levels, to activate that Christos within them. and let them understand that through that photonic understanding of how they work, you can literally send a message to beings across the universe just from the photonic light that you may harness from the sun, or just from the love of activating your heart space. So I was wondering if you could go into that a little more.
Well, that's
your
kind of a lot to
process.
go into. I would say my process is invocation, transmutation, calling in the light. First, you need to embody the light, and then you need to apply force with your mind to the light, but you need a clear nervous system. My process was commanding and knowing I had authority to command all things, and then applying that with the knowing. It's like a feeling like if I ask you if you know how to tie your shoes. Yeah, of course, that's a silly question. I know I do. So you take that knowing with what you're commanding, what you're asking for. And basically, I commanded all lower frequencies to be bound together across all timelines, dimensions, and realities as one. I bring those together with clients, and then we begin transmuting. Polarity starts on their nervous system, which is a larger positive charge introduced to the negative charge of the cell membranes. I'm still figuring out a lot of the science behind it, but you're channeling a large amount of energy from our source, from the field, and you have to ask for that, and you have to become accountable to your carnal self, to your lower self, and really align yourself with the principles that we want to see for heaven on earth in order to channel a large amount of that energy and that charge. My daily habit is like breath work, breathing, and then in my mind, I connect with memories of love. And if I can't connect with love, I ask my inner child to become present. I thank them. I ask my inner child to show me what love feels like. I thank them. I ask my inner child to show me what peace feels like. I thank them. I ask my inner child to show me what joy feels like. I thank them because I'm bouncing signals between myself and my original creation as I was born, which is love. What was the first part of that? Basically, it becomes a game between me and the quantum field. I want to create a higher signal, send it out, giving thanks to pretty much every living thing. And as you go along in your day, the more thanks you give for the small things, the more you're lifted up, because it's now a game. I'm sending out the signal, I'm receiving it back, and you're charging yourself up. Claiming your sovereignty, your energetic sovereignty, claiming this is a sacred space as a consistent exercise is important.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, hopefully I answered your question.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And I know we're going to have more of those as we get along about how do you operate, why you operate the way you do.
Oh, I forgot the biophoton question she asked.
Well,
Basically,
can
all
we
human.
say, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You wanna go a different direction?
Well, I did want to finish up like you when you got home, but I go ahead and do the biophoton question.
The biophoton basically is every human being emits a small charge of light. Because we channel light, the sun comes through us. Our nervous system creates neurons, to my knowledge, and we emit what's called an aura. Of course, you know the aura. And with our mind, if we have enough knowing that this is finished, I have authority over this. Within you, that creates a charge that can send those biophotons, more of them, out. What I do is, like, when I heal with people, I kind of approach each one differently, though. Sometimes I'll envision it healing. Sometimes I'll focus on what I'm feeling. It kind of really depends on the person. But it's pretty much the same process to remove entities, extra dimensional interference is what I call it, because we're tuners. It's pretty much the same deal. You bring them back into that sacred space, that middle, and you draw all their energy in. Anyway, I went different there. All right, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. So you got back home to your father, and you expressed before that now you've gotten all this information, and now you come home, because we've talked to someone else who had a near-death experience. And once you come home with all this information packed in your brain, now what happens?
Basically, you look like you're psychotic or you're crazy, because I started to discern things. I would feel it, and then I would know it. And I didn't know how it was happening, but I just knew it. So I started to follow that. I was a GameStop store manager at the time. And I started to play games where I would ask somebody in my head if they wanted a bag, and I could feel the response, yes or no. And then I would ask them to see if it matched up, vocally. I would ask them afterwards. And sure enough, it was matching up about 90% of the time. Then I started to feel people's hunger. I would eat a full lunch. Somebody would walk in. I would be really hungry. This would happen quite a few times before I had the balls, you could say, to ask people. And I did. And it turned out yes, 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 yes. And I'm like, okay, something's going on. I started to get bright red, and my assistant manager turned to me and he said, dude, you're bright red. And I could just feel all these things passing through me that weren't me. I was crying. I would be laughing. Stuff out of nowhere, like a charge would come up and it would just happen to me. I started to keep like a journal of all the psychic stuff that was happening.
It sounds like Professor Xavier.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But afterwards, I threw the journal away because I was like, okay, it's not going away. And then I would get the synchronicities with the angels, things like that. And I tried to go to churches, all these different churches, to talk to people. And they didn't really have answers, but I knew we were in a war. It was like instantaneous. I knew we were in a war. I didn't know exactly a lot about it at the time, but I had that feeling in me. And all the things I used to do changed. The things I used to do didn't bring me satisfaction, and I had to pursue better things for my soul to sustain this being that had just integrated with me.
So
which was
did
pretty
you
heavy.
know what the being was that integrated with you? Like, did you see, besides seeing the fragments of yourself, did you see something else?
Yeah, the Elohim. Basically, they're coming down on Earth, taking up bodies for ascension. Willing people that are, want to do the work, but they're just advanced souls that ascended to that plane.
Did you ever have a past life reading or a starseed reading? Because at some point you figure out what star family you're in.
Well, that happened when the Arcturians showed up and started speaking to me, and they sounded a lot different than spirits. Arcturians being extraterrestrials, and they were telling me all these things about the divine council, and they showed me a grid.
Before you tell us that, like, when was that in relationship to 4-year-old, 30-year-old? When was that?
Oh, this was as I was going through the process still of awakening. We're talking about the time when I got home, right?
Yeah, okay, got it. So it's during the time when you get home. Got it.
So they showed up, told me all these things that I later confirmed. I didn't believe at the time. I told them, go away, get out of here. They eventually came back and told me more. But
what do they look like?
I couldn't see them at the time. I could feel them and I could hear them like crystal clear, clearer than my voice.
Interesting.
I've seen them sense in my sessions, in my mind, all different kinds of races, good ones. But I have removed like bad ones, but I didn't see them when I did it.
And so I don't know if you have more that you wanted to share about when you came home, the
I'm
experiences.
trying to think. It was just so much.
It was so
Um,
much, yeah.
yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of psychic stuff, feeling and hearing people's thoughts. There was physical stuff where I would like have a fever and it would go away, have a fever, go away. But I wasn't sick or anything, and I didn't actually have a fever. I'd be bright red as my molecules were vibrating so fast. There was this one time I went into a store and I'm standing in line and I see this kid get out of line and he grabs a Reese's peanut butter cup and he turns this to his dad and he asks him if he can have it. Dad says, okay. And then all of a sudden I see it again. And I realized the kid only had one. And I'm like, that was really weird. I went to my car. I
So
turned
you
on the
saw
car.
it before it happened, is what you're saying?
Yeah, saw it or interpreted
Yeah.
it, something. And then I went to my car. I turned on the car. There's this woman who wins a contest on the radio. She's talking to the DJ. And all of a sudden the phone's ringing again. And it's the same woman. And they're asking her the question. It's before she won. So this played after I had experienced it already. And then that's when I was like, do I have to go to the hospital here or something?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
just incidents
Thinking
like
like,
that.
are
A
you
lot
feeling
of,
like, oh, this is my medication acting up, or
yeah. And I was talking
Yes.
about quantum physics so much and God all of a sudden and listening to different music that my parents and my girlfriend at the time wanted me to see a shrink. So I was like, well, I went to the shrink. He tried to give me medication and I asked him what it was for. He wouldn't tell me. And then I told him what it was for. And then that was the last of that. And years later, they see me doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when you got started doing this, now how regularly do these beings visit you? Is this like an everyday thing or?
No, not really.
Okay.
It was like once or twice in the span of maybe a year. And then I would have like downloads, things like that I could feel came from them. And I would do research on them and they'd be around for a little while. And then I would do like research on something else. And then it would sort of align with that.
Interesting.
They show up a lot in healing sessions. Like if I can see the person, I can't always see them in my mind's eye in the way I want, but like I could see them on a slab, almost like a cement slab in a ritual room somewhere, and it changes. But when they're there, I could see them come through like almost like a Stargate. They just come out of space. It could be like praying mantis types, the Syrians or Lyrans, I mean, and a few different types that I've seen in my mind. And I was like, whoa, is this a problem? Because for the first time, I don't know what's happening. I'm just feeling my way through it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, these beings seem to just be coming down. It seems to create a lot of synchronicities.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's like everything comes together as one. And as it clicks in your mind, you're like, all right, am I crazy? Lately, a lot of lucid dreams about going on the ships and being bald and seeing white suits and everything's white and smooth, and them doing energetic work, things like that. At one point, they were sending down something for me to connect to, and I don't want to say a med bed, but it was similar to that. It was just, it would come in my mind as a thought, and I know now, okay, if I didn't have that thought, then it came from there.
Interesting. Okay.
So for a second, you're probably not used to this. We're going to give a shout out. I got Celestial Soul out there, Dom, always hanging out with us. Mel Tulip, Soldier's Voice, Liba, Tyler. Hey, Tyler, you guys better say hi to Tyler out there. We're going to be hanging out with him next week with Journey to the Truth. Mel Tulip. Let's see. Liba, Shafiqua, Ursula. This is the first time of us seeing you, Ursula. So good to see you. Robert Earl White was hanging out with us. Thank you for hanging out with us and supporting us. And we'll be right on your group chat next time. Terry Priest, the admin, she's awesome. Let's see who else is out there. I don't want to miss anybody. Marivat, Corey. And she said, Jordan Maxwell says the Son and Jesus Christ are one and the same. He said he related to that a lot. I've thought this through everything I've learned, angels and demons. Ramadan, she's out there. Oh my God. Tina has changed her name to Troll Slayer. And then the King of Wands and 2 Queen of Cups. I like that name. It took me a long time to get that name. Ursula again. So I wanted to make sure to say hi to all of our CW friends and our galactic chicks. Thank you so much. Just remember to hit the like, you all, so we can get some numbers up. We got to get some numbers up. So Jermaine already said we need to hit 1,000. We need to be at 1,000 subscribers.
Hey everyone.
Very optimistic.
That's right, Marvel. Say hey. She's indisposed at the moment.
I love you guys.
You know they love your voice too. All right. So we're back with Steve and we're hanging out. So you're going through all these weird experiences after your rollover. You've already had like a near death when you were 4. You've seen yourself, the fragments of your own soul coming to you to express to you the need to change. And at some point when you're at the GameStop, this just has to end, right? This life of working at the GameStop, like this isn't working, especially when you're, when do you start learning that you need to like protect your energy and you gotta like really start living out your life's purpose? Did they come to you and tell you what your purpose was, or?
Well, I'd say the first step was forming a relationship with what I understood to be God for me. And it slowly progressed from, okay, just read my Bible, trying to find that God, into everything else, into me being connected to this field to where I could input commands into myself a lot like a computer. And if I was in this holy space, I could create heaven on earth. And if I was in this other space, I could create hell on earth. And that I was already in the garden. I'm in the garden. That was a lot.
Okay, Dad.
What else did you ask? Because sometimes I lose it during that. What else did you ask?
Well, you had to transition from working at the GameStop, and now it's like, because your life is different now. Your life is beyond that. And you're feeling.
So I left my job.
Hunger.
Eventually I had to leave my job. I couldn't take all the pressure. And that's all I could say is it felt like constant pressure and I couldn't process. And I had these, whether you want to call them entities or projections, I had those to deal with. And it was just too much at once and everybody thought I was nuts. Then I started working with, well, I won't go there yet. It was a long process of figuring out what to create and what I didn't want, because all of a sudden I was magnified and things started to manifest and move faster. Everything was moving faster now. So I started to witness myself creating and what I didn't want to create and what I did. And I just figured out if I create this type of crappy energy and I place it outside, I'm not going to get what I want. And it became, now you want to correct your thoughts, your actions, in turn, your vibration about how you feel to align with the reality you want. I sort of figured it out by feeling it. And during the time, I basically broke up with my fiance, lost my family, followed like a supposed twin flame experience. But it was for divine healing so I could find myself. So it was a lot of turmoil, man. My life was upside down.
So literally the experience, I mean, why did you break up with your girlfriend at the time? Like it just
Well, I was crazy. I was a weirdo. I was being isolated. And I understand now I needed to be isolated to form that energetic connection with my divine blueprint, with the quantum field, with God, however you want to identify that highest version of yourself. I understood I needed to be isolated, and I was isolated. I felt, and I could feel everybody thinking about me. I could feel what it felt like because I felt violated. I felt like they were, and I knew they were, and they couldn't control it. I see that now, that it was just a natural human reaction. People weren't going to have my experience. I figured that out. And I went through a lot of loneliness, a lot of hard times, a lot of not wanting to be here anymore, throwing yourself on the floor, telling them to take you up.
I think that's something that people can really relate to, because you can literally feel people judging you every minute of the day, or not approving of you every minute of the day, and feeling like being judged all the time.
Yeah, and it replays. I had to defeat that part, the part of myself that told me, oh, you're too thin, you're too this, you're ugly. Whatever it is that I was telling myself was replaying as a program. And I figured out slowly, step by step, my power as a creator and the responsibility of it to others. I didn't want to hurt people anymore, like I dated a lot, wasn't the best at dating. Obviously, I'm not married. So, it was like I just wanted to stop behaving with my mother's abandonment in me to a point, because I felt abandoned, so I would abandon other people, and they didn't deserve it. And I figured out that equation, basically. Take this type of energy, put it within you, keep knocking on that door until it opens. Take this kind of energy, place it outside.
So you had a lot of self-defeating ideas and a lot of self-sabotaging, and you've just decided to let that all go. Part of that.
It was a big cycle too, because you'd have that self-defeating, and then you'd mull on it, mull on it, mull on it. And then you'd get to a certain point, and then you would self-defeat again, and you would mull on it and mull on it,
Just kind of focusing on your failures in a way, so to speak.
Yeah, it was like I had to remove some of the dense shadow side of myself, and I started to see it as that. I knew that's what was happening, so that I can live and I could feel life and love and all those things.
So you called it something specific, a nerve. I have to find it. When you said the nerves are basically calcified, people who can't deal with their emotions.
Neuro hijacking.
At some point, you discussed that. I really wanted you to share that, because I think that's something important people should understand. Thanks, Stephanie. She got it.
You can let her speak if you want.
Well, did you have a question about the neuro hijacking yourself, Stephanie, or?
I was just curious about it. I never heard that term before, so just trying to learn what it is.
In psychotherapy, it's believed that your trauma charges can form a large enough charge to basically hijack the nervous system. And I just, through my work on others and the information that you get from removing these things, because I have to give you their information, is that people are being hijacked through their nervous system to gain motor function. We're having that war for souls, for energy. And a lot of that goes through our unaddressed trauma. It builds up a large enough negative charge in order to take control. And it's happening right now because of the rising frequency on the planet. And the sun going through its cycle right now for basically the expansion and evolution of humanity. And they have to clear this lower data out. But yes, that lower data offers links to these extra dimensional, multidimensional entities. I'm sure one of the other guys has a good description.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Revan, you talk about this all the time, right? It's
Yeah,
you're calling it zero hijacking, but what is it?
The dark side possessing you through your negative ego issues that are not unresolved. That's why you have to do shadow work, so you can be aware of your negative ego issues, because that's your vulnerability that the dark side can infiltrate through. So
and
like you said,
are in here saying that they feel like they just live in love and light, but you don't just live in love and light. There's another side to you that you need to address, and you talk about that all the time, right, Revan?
you know, oh yeah, I thought you were about to talk about him. So yeah, so we was talking about the central nervous system, because I got possessed back in 2021, and one of my friends that was she was actually up a tall, and she sat there and said, yeah, this entity that tried to take you over, it should have burned out your central nervous system. Your central nervous system must be different, you know, because the energy of this thing. So you was talking about so possession occurs through the central nervous system, because when you incarnate into the body, your soul attached to the central nervous system. So we talk about entities, you know, lower vibrational entities. Yeah. Through your trauma is a rip in your auric field, so your protection, and then that's how they get in. And if you don't heal the trauma, then the fear builds up, and then of course you avoid it completely, and then there's get worse, and entities just start building up, like you was talking about that charge that you was talking about. So yeah,
and so many people aren't even aware of it. That's the sad part. You know, people are waking up, but they're not even aware that a lot of what we're seeing in society is happening because of that.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting taken over by the dark side. They are getting possessed. If they're not evolving their consciousness, they're getting possessed. They're either bouncing around in their ego, either narcissism or acting like a little scared child or an irresponsible teenager. It's all in the ego. They just bounce around the ego. And we have learned from contact the Alex Carrier through the Andromedan Council. AI seemed to be what's behind ego itself. This AI central computer being broadcast across the Milky Way galaxy from the I think it's in the Orion Nebula by the Nebu or the Orion group. Okay, you can continue. I'm done.
Oh, that's very cool. I was waiting for you to add more. But yeah, AI has been coming into my awareness probably like a few months ago about how dangerous it is and how it's going through our system. And if we have quantum energy, then it's using our quantum energy to compute and claiming sovereignty as an energetic being and system. Because I am a system.
Like you talking about the biophotons. Well, Loosh is biophotons in a lower frequency because it's fear. They feed off the Loosh. That goes through a black hole in Saturn to another universe where these entities are powering themselves from out the Loosh they get from us as gods in this other universe.
The black hole's getting bigger, right?
Well, supposedly the guardians and those upstairs supposed to be taking care of things. They tell us. So we waiting to see the results of them supposedly taking care of things. So yeah.
Very interesting.
I'm going to interject because there's this point where it's like, he can explain that. I can understand that, but I can't explain that. And I just want to give a shout out to you guys at in the Consciousness War and anybody who watches the channel and supports, because it's great to be a part of a team. You see, because we have Steve giving his aspects that he knows. He's just learning about the aspect of the AI and its control. And here it is, we can hang out with Revan and he knows specifically, these great details to help us understand how we're being used, how we're being harvested. And I just appreciate it because there's parts of things that I can't explain, but here I have Dab, the Astro, what do you call yourself? Astro Dab.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel Bliss, who's farther along in her training in, healing and densities, and she's far more technical than me, and
And she's a planetary grid worker.
she's a planetary worker.
Yeah.
And everything I do is just basically out of the heart. I'm just moving by the day, in the dark, by the heart. And I give messages and ask questions based on just how I move by spirit on a daily basis. And I move just basically on my field of energy and my heart just moving. That's how I move. But together, I don't know what you call this. We're not Marvel. We're like super friends or something. Because when you put us,
Yeah.
like
A-Team.
on or some shit,
Like
you know?
the A-Team.
The Avengers.
The
Justice League.
A-Team.
Yes.
Remember the A-Team?
I love it.
So impressed sometimes because I'm like, I met Steve and I don't know everything about Steve, but I know Steve by my heart, just connecting with him and relating to him. But then I can introduce him to my friends and we can like just all blossom together in what we're doing right now.
Yes.
I was just so impressed. So I'm feeling myself. We're gonna do that again.
Somebody mentioned planetary grid worker. That was one of the things the Arcturians said when they came to me the first time, and that was my first contact with them. Had no contact of hearing clear
And those
identification.
Arcturian must be part of the Guardian Alliance race, because that's the ones that supposed to be, protecting it, because the grids that connects with the morphogenic field of the planet and the genetics of the star seeds, and also the indigos. The indigos are the guardian star seeds. That's what I'm talking about, the guardian races.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those guardians do look like Arcturians.
A lot of them are Arcturian, actually.
Yeah, I've been
Very
doing
logical.
grid work since 2007. And within the last couple of years, I've moved up also to doing celestial grids too. So it's very interesting. I've also come in contact with a lot of beings, which I wanted to talk to you about your mantis experience, because sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy because I do have these wild experiences and there's no real validation as far as, research and coming up with, some kind of resources into what I'm experiencing. And oftentimes I don't figure it out until way after the fact. But I do have a mantis experience, and I just wanted to talk to you about yours. These weren't humanoid looking, right? Were these like actual mantis beings, like a full, like how the little mantises are here?
Well, when I saw them, and I saw them during a session, like I pretty much see most people on some type of slab, and they're laying down on a slab, and they would walk in from like a Stargate from we were in outer space one time, and they were humanoid, but they were about the same size as people, and they just moseyed on in, and it was the first time I had ever witnessed it, and I could feel them as I'm doing it, because I could feel them, connected to my energy. So I wasn't sure if I had a problem. And then, they sent me basically, don't worry about it, we're connected to this person. And I told them, and it turned out they had prior synchronicities. And most people I tell, hey, you had mantises coming in, they're like, okay, you're crazy. But every single person had prior experience. I don't know what I'm going to see when I go in there,
Yeah, it changes.
Yeah.
Right. Humanoid. So I'm just trying to find somebody else that has seen one that wasn't humanoid, that actually looked like a large mantis being. So, but that's very interesting. And I see things all the time and I don't know what it is. Like one time I had a creature, it looked like the character from Coco Crisp, or Cuckoo for Coco Crisp. little monster guy. I saw
Wait a
him
minute.
running around one
Google
night,
Cocoa
and
Puffs.
I don't know. It's just nice to
That what you
talk to
talking about?
somebody. Yes, yes. He was.
You talking about the cookie?
No, yeah,
Feeling. Yeah.
yeah, that one from a long, long time ago. So it's just nice to hear somebody else talk about like etheric and also star beings, and kind of just compare notes and see if there's any similarities, or I don't know. It's really cool to actually hear somebody else that is experiencing these things.
Yeah, and it's something I never asked for. It's something I mean, I suppose I did ask for it. It was something I wasn't aware I asked for. And it was just like, okay, this is happening. And then I started to notice I had like some sort of healing gift. Like I touched a lady. She was in pain when I touched her. I just instinctively put my hand on her shoulder. And she said, I'm all warm. I don't have any pain.
Yeah.
And like a couple minutes later, the EMT came because she had just fallen and she was a senior. And I went back to wherever I was working, and I was just freaked out, just a consistent freak out until you accept it. That world is more real than this one.
Yeah.
And you're just playing a character through an Xbox controller or some console. You're playing yourself in this experience. You know, it came to be that data, energy, data. But you know, when you look at yourself and you become the observer, and you're like, okay, I'm the main character in my movie. Would I like this character if I were to watch this movie on my own? If I were to pop the movie into the VCR, what would I think of this character? You know, that was a game changer, being able to observe myself.
Yes.
Interesting. I like the dynamic of being able to see yourself and correct yourself. And then would you say that these people, these fragments of yourself, or your higher self visiting you maybe in a different time, or coming to you being like, hey, wake up, we need you to be able to utilize your skills? Or was this more of like a just an energy representation of yourself? Like as far as
I would say it had to be me at one time.
okay.
And when it came in, it was like a full makeover from head to toe. And all of the stuff that I did before, I stopped doing. I couldn't play video games anymore because it was just, I needed to go outside. I needed to go to church. I needed to read this. I needed to do that. And some other driving mechanism was there. So if I did have, of course, my higher self came in, but it was a large charge and portion that just led me down like the whole angels and demons for a while, to this, to that. And it was almost like I learned to let go of the wheel in a way.
Interesting.
So since then, okay, so at the time you had a girlfriend, you broke up with your girlfriend, and you did like a higher flame, or what do you call it, twin flame experience. Can you tell us about that? Like,
it was terrible.
I hear every time somebody say a twin flame experience,
they always say it's bad.
It sounds hard.
Yeah.
It was like feeling everything turned up to maximum. You know, I'm used to feeling at the 1 notch for my feelings, and somebody just cranked it all the way up to 10. And I couldn't manage them. I couldn't process them. And I had a similar experience right after that, where we would trade information intuitively, be able to feel each other, hear each other. And the second person mirrored back everything I had done to the first person back to me. So it was like I went there and then it came back to me. And I realized it was to unite me with myself, with my own divine feminine, divine masculine in balance, so that I can move and be free. And that's all it was, is a deep healing of those childhood trauma aspects, past lives at times.
Do you think you could have healed some of that or identified some of that without participating in a twin flame relationship?
No, definitely not. I would have never felt that level of pain. And I believe you have to go down there in order to create that higher space above you and use that fuel. Without that pain and that loneliness, I would have never challenged myself and rose up and created the fuel for Ascension, basically, once I alchemized it.
I see what you're saying. Because some of us were like, nah, no for the twin flame. We're good because we, feel a certain way. But maybe some people need it because they've traumatized others so much. Like you say, you expose people to the abandonment of your mom issues.
Yeah, the personality aspects were vibrating in a way that they were deeper. They were further back in time that I had created in my mind. So it had to be cracked open to get in there.
Okay, that gives me like a different...
You're dealing with charges, basically.
Perspective.
So the charge had to be created to overcome the other charge.
Right. That gives me a deeper understanding of it, because for me, like I don't feel like I've been self-aware for a long time, always judging, like, oh, if I did this, would it hurt this person? So there's this, like people like me, we live constantly feeling guilty and trying to be nice and actually worrying about everybody else's feelings. So it's like, I don't feel like I need a twin flame to dig up, to like blow my life apart and blow up all these bricks of trauma.
And I don't think it is a twin flame. It's just a deeper healing.
Right. Yeah, like everybody doesn't have, because I think sometimes people hear the story of twin flames and they're like, oh, I need a twin flame experience. And I'm like, fuck no, I had enough trauma. I don't need somebody to come and traumatize me. Because but one thing I do realize though too is what you're saying is during the experience, why it was so painful is because now once you become what people are calling empathic, you start to feel things so much extreme. So two people who are like a live wire feeling so empathic and so much pain, like it creates a lot of energy in the relationship. It's like,
yeah, especially since they were two divine channels and everything I was being ignored for, the person I was becoming, I was embracing healing. I was becoming a better person, getting in line with the principles that human beings should have as far as creating energy in a sacred manner, that affects all life. But I was becoming a better person, and this person connected and gave me everything that I needed in that moment in time. And they were a lesson for that time period to move me to the next stage. But it was all mine to figure out and to become accountable. Okay, change this, change that, change this. And once I walked through it enough, I got free. That's all I can say. Like nothing moves me to the left or the right anymore, except for people who harm life and other people. Not too much bothers me as far as a woman anymore, things like that, because I've been through so much deep stuff. It's like I processed the information I feel like I needed to learn in this life cycle.
So that kind of brings me to the dating situation. Like, you're not the first person I've seen, but you really reserve your energy when it comes to dating. I think most of us are at this point right now where we're not so pressed to be in a relationship. So we have come to this point of allowing space for ourselves. Like I see in group, like who else is, like what kind of person is going to let me like stay up till 5 a.m. talking to my friends without being like, why, or, a person who might see me and say, oh, I love the way you do this. And then in the past, the same people who said, oh, I love this about you, they actually tried to change the very things that they said they loved about you. And they try to remove parts of you. And you're like, no, I'm not going to change to be with you. if something I change in my life, it's going to be because I change it because I want to change it, but not because you happen to be present. I'm not going to stop my show. I'm not going to stop hanging out with my friends. I'm not going to stop having the kinds of conversations that I have. Or, you know, if I get busy making jewelry till 7 a.m, this is me. So can you be in my space and allow me to be me? So you have some serious habits. Like when you go out on those hikes, how long do you go out there? And like, you know, you get to be free and like.
Gosh, as long as my energy is flowing through me and it's still there. Yeah, I pretty much have had the last 5 to probably 7 years without anybody, and I got used to it, and I got used to learning how to play the game with the quantum field and that energy, and really refining that frequency to a singularity, which is what I like to call it, a singular expression of love. If there was something that I couldn't love, it was my responsibility to figure out why. And that's to what you said. People don't have the processing to not change others. If you're having a charge rising up in you, you have to understand that comes from an unhealed part of you. You have to process that back here in your processor, and not give that to your partner. You either have to accept them or not, love them or not. And that'll be obvious in the relationship.
Right, because I feel like a lot of people during Ascension, they start to maybe think the grass is greener on the other side and think like, oh, I wish. And it's basically everything that's going on inside of you. If I love me and I'm okay with me, and I don't have, if the other person is not trying to change me, then why can't I just observe you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I said earlier today, we were talking, I had to find me something. And I was like, oh, if I have a baby, my baby doesn't change its own diaper. My baby doesn't feed itself. And I'm not going to take my baby because I still love a baby. And I'm like, oh, look, he made this little weird noise. I can, you know, find little things about that child who can do absolutely nothing, but just sit there and be cute and then not cute. He'd also be annoying, right? And frustrating, ever. And I can look at that baby and smile. I'm not going to be like, oh, this baby can't change his own diaper. Like, I'm not going to just toss it and throw it. So, like, you can love people where they're at without trying to change them. And you can observe them without trying to change them. As long as you can observe me without trying to fix me and change me. And that's like the biggest blessing, is to be around people who are not trying to fix you and operate on you all the time and trying to.
That, and you have to be in control over the carnal self. And that was something that I was able to feel in me. And I started saying no. And I was proud of myself for saying no and choosing myself over and over in my spiritual growth, because we all have it as human instincts. But can we identify where that lust is coming from, what it is, what to do with it, process it? You know, I think
that's the biggest thing. Because I think like men are extremely tolerant of certain things about women. So to get what they want, they will tolerate a whole lot in their space.
Yeah, because they already have a set image in their mind, a goal that they want to accomplish.
I'm trying to get nookie on a regular basis.
And it's like a program that's set in there.
Yeah.
But you have to take control and be the controller of your consciousness. And then you'll notice how things come in and go out, like the wind and the water and things like that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Did you have something, Stephanie?
I'm just soaking all this in. Like, I love thank you so much, Steve, for being here with us. This conversation is amazing. I love this. Erica, you did such a great job. I love this.
It's very interesting.
He said hi to me, so but I always just thought it was so
amazing.
cool Because when I was in Steve, like one time I think I saw you post, there was a woman who, or like maybe you noticed that people wanted to pay you to be a healer, but really what they wanted to do was just sit and talk to you about their ex or something.
Oh yeah, they want to use you. They think because they're pretty that you're going to sit there and just feed them information and be available. And I couldn't do that to my nervous system. Like
Overload.
I can't be yeah, exactly.
It's an overload.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I refined it down to where I don't want one little pixel of data that's not supposed to be in there. That's not in alignment with source, because I want to give that to people and leave a clean imprint when I leave. I want to leave a clean footprint. Just giving back and uniting people with their source of love. And that was it. So yeah, when it comes to women, they want in to use your energy, and I don't want them in my nervous system most of the times. Pretty much all the time.
Goes up on levels, because this could be your mom, sister, girlfriend, daughter, because it's manipulations on different level that men don't understand, that women will get in there with the sympathy, because men usually have sympathy for women, right?
I guess so. I think mine, for the most part, seem to think they can use their looks, to where I've conquered that, and I understand you're a soul and flesh. And if I don't resonate with you, nothing else works. I've set myself into that spiritual mindset, and it's become a pattern. And more or less, it's like, look at me, I'm pretty. You should be talking to me. You should be helping me, type deal. Young ones.
And then there's
I made that mistake once. I went out with a 25-year-old, like, what is this? Probably 2 years ago. And I'm like, I one date, and I'm like, I'm old enough to be your dad. Nope. The whole time going through it.
You're bad for being 25, but just people's mindset and their it's the manipulation.
A lot of people don't even go through all their houses.
But if you want to say what is witchcraft, I would say witchcraft is manipulation. So when you're using looks or guilt or these things to make people do things that they really don't want to do, that to me is the biggest sign of witchcraft. So,
yeah, everything is a spell in a way.
Yes. Yeah,
Plus,
manipulation.
around that time, scientifically, a 25-year-old also doesn't have, they haven't been through all their houses in the star chart yet. I think they only made like one pass, and you're not conscious of it. You don't usually start waking up until you're about 30, and you start conscious of the world. A lot of people awakening into adulthood, or just into what everything is. You still have that mindset. A lot of us had that mindset before our 30s. Some people still haven't grown up, and they're about to be 40 until they get that awakening for them. But there's a mathematical clock for everybody that's set for them to have that awakening. It doesn't necessarily need trauma to actually have that awakening, even though trauma is a good catalyst for people to I guess, would you say, age consciously. So
it's good that you point that out, because even in Islamic religion, most men don't get married until they're 40.
Right.
It's like you need to form
You're not really an
contrast.
adult until you're 40.
You need to form some sort of contrast to view yourself and grow. Yeah, but I was proud of myself for being able to say no as much as I did, until it became choosing myself. I was no longer in a battle with how I felt, I was no longer able to be manipulated.
So then there's also,
I saw that energy become stronger with God, and I started to feel a love I'd never felt before here, and that fed me, still does.
Nice.
So then there's, the concept too, as a healer or practitioner, even a card reader, all money isn't good money. And I've seen a lot of people change where they were taking a certain amount of clients, and they stopped taking them because they really have taken the idea or concept that I don't want you to follow me, and I don't want you to be coming here for healings on a weekly basis for this endless amount of time. I want you to take the tools that I give you to go heal yourself. Has there been a time where you said, you know, like all money isn't good money? And all,
there was many periods and many characters I played in order to understand their image and empathize with them on the opposite spectrum. At first, it was ego, and I thought it was all me. And then that came crashing down. And you just learn as you go along. Okay, your ego gets a little bit more kicked, and you become humble. And then you just learn, okay, I have this other grace, this humbleness, this other connection in this feeling as opposed to that one. So I've gone through pretty much every character you can play to where I got to where I want to, you know, okay, this love you're feeling in you is God. You can connect with that however you want, whenever you want, in a higher space. Cultivate that for healing your physical body through your energetic system. And this is yours to take with you forever. And if you need a little help figuring it out, then I'm here. But I don't ever like, okay, people say they want to come back in a week. I'm like, give it 2 weeks, because I know things just start moving and you start picking up about how to operate your system. You know, there's people I refuse. If I know they won't do the work or things like that, because I don't want to waste it's not about money. I don't want to waste their money. I don't want to waste my time here, you know, and there's a lot of people I help for nothing. It's all about the heart and how much intention and how authentic they are with wanting to connect and where they are in their journey.
So then that connects to the last thought I had was about people. I've heard some practitioners complain about people who go from healer to healer. They just go around in a circle. They're just on this little magic wheel, and they're going up and down and can't figure out why I'm having all these problems.
Yeah, I've had a couple clients like that. They would try to like piggyback. They wouldn't give it a couple days for themselves to cleanse and expand and sort of anchor in the new vibration they're in and start processing. They would go to other people to help them, which takes away finding their power. Takes them finding that, rewiring your brain with the quantum field. They're no longer doing that. They're looking for somebody else.
Right. And so how long do you think that takes? Because to my understanding, it takes like 3 sleep cycles or something like that. Like I've had a healing before with my back, and they were like, oh, you're going to feel this for a couple of days. You might feel some nausea, might feel some extra.
Each person is different, to be honest with you. The amount of density, each person is such a unique story and soul that's experiencing itself with creation, you know, waking up to itself. But yeah, every single one differs depending on the person.
So at one point you talked about the one
I would give it at least 2 weeks before you start to really look back. I would follow, reconnect your system with the quantum field, claim your sovereignty in all this nervous system space back, because it's contracted and you want it expanded. We contract to protect ourselves from feeling, and you want to expand it and feel and be able to choose, do I want to create that?
True. Somebody said feel. I feel
discernment.
Yeah. So one of the things that, you know, the word attack. So we've been dealing with the word attack a lot, and another lady saying, I feel like I've been receiving some attacks, and another person saying, I've been being attacked, and they can't identify the source of the attack, but they're expressing that they're feeling attacked. I mean, even just with the word, it's like this really aggressive word. It strikes fear in people, but I know you expressed to me a person came to you and they said that they were being attacked and they had like 18 attacks. And there's a psychology also behind it. Like there's a psychology and then there's a spell from the word. I wanted you to explain that dynamic of when somebody says, I feel attacked, or when you tell somebody they're
You
being
mean like if another healer tells somebody this?
right. If a healer tells them this, or people walking around saying this, like
Basically, any lower emotion you're giving to another person is an attack in a way. You're trying to change their vibration. But yes, if you're going to people for the help, in my opinion, they say, hey, I have an entity. Yes, I can help you. Hey, I have this that I can't figure out. Yes, I can help you. As opposed to somebody you're going to, and they're now having you focus on the outside of yourself instead of the inside, then you're being misled. That right there sends my red flag up. Why is fear
got
being
you focusing
implanted?
on you're being attacked? If they got you focused on that, you're being attacked. And if somebody this is talking about attacks, it's external. I just
Right.
want
I
to
had a
emphasize
woman
it
that
because it's
I had
happening
a
a
woman-
lot.
I had a woman that was under attack with witchcraft. But what it was, and she was, but what it was trading energies. It was parts of herself she gave permission for this other person to enter, and we had to remove that. You know, me specifically telling her in that situation, yeah, he's doing this to you, or this is happening, wasn't going to create the right energy to exit and allow herself to come back. What we call soul retrieval. You know, you want to move that energy out with a higher charge, a higher frequency as I'm channeling, and allow her soul piece to come back. Fill that with light as that other fragment goes, however much it be. You know, people can trade a lot of energy through witchcraft, sex magic, things like that. Depending on if you're allowing that and your soul still needs it and learning certain things like that.
Trading energy, like what do you
Trading
mean?
aspects of consciousness.
So this is something you're willingly participating in an activity.
Right, you're trading quantum energy. Aspects of yourselves as quantum energy.
And that's online, in person.
You see it with twin flames. You see it with intuition. You see it with things like that. Except partners, they share deeper aspects of themselves on a quantum level, basically inhabiting the same space. I wouldn't say full-on trade.
Mm-hmm. So inhabiting the same space, conversations, maybe online. It could even be watching people's videos too, right? Like if you're watching videos and movies, and like Stephanie has mentioned before, porn, things like that. But not even just porn, because I think we give porn a lot of credit. But there's a lot of basic television that is just garbage. Like I don't watch, certain LA Inks and Housewives stuff, because I used to start to feel so sick when I would watch certain television programs. Like I would be out of breath, my chest would be hurting. And I'm like, I thought it was just the audacity that people live a certain way and they treat each other so poorly. But it's more to it than that, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I want to see if any of the other guys have anything to say on television, because I'm going to run to the men's room real quick. I'll be right back.
I think it's they have the study on when people go to sleep, television on, and how the REM memory when you're sleeping, what you can actually, your body can actually absorb. That doesn't mean that you can decipher the information, but it's absorbing and retaining it. It's taking up storage, and all that junk information, infomercials. That's how we're able to remember infomercials and commercials. It's like things that we probably don't even jingles in our head from that random access memory that gets loaded when we're sleeping, because our brains never necessarily shut off when we're asleep. I mean, it's always running. Even our sensory perception might be like half off, but we're still listening, taking in information. So that's just like the same thing, you know. You got to be careful of what you're watching and putting in your body, because even when you're sleeping, the noises and frequencies or television that's playing is actually being absorbed, even if you are conscious of it or not. So it's an interesting dynamic with that.
I like the idea because, you know, just because you're supposedly raising your frequency or high vibration or ascending, it doesn't mean that you can't associate with people who are not actually in this process. What it does mean is that it's just like the concept of having a top 5 in your phone or your emergency contacts and things like that. I have to be around more people that give. You know, if I'm pouring into your cup, are you pouring back into my cup? If I'm around a bunch of people and I can pour into all their cups, like I'm around 5 people, my top 5 people that I talk to every day, and I'm constantly pouring into their cup, but nobody is pouring back into mine or giving back into my emotional bank account. Some people say emotional bank account. I'm now empty and I'm wondering, why is my neck hurting, my back hurting, my chest hurting? Why am I dizzy? Why do I have a sore throat? Why am I sick? Why am I, whatever? I have to start thinking about who I'm in contact with on a daily basis. It's not to say that I'm clean and everyone else is unclean, but can I sustain? Am I giving out more than I'm putting back into my own self? Because I have to put into myself, but then in my associations on a daily basis, is anyone pouring back into me? Now, sometimes this feeling of self-importance, where I like to be the most important person and the smartest person in the room. So I might surround myself with people who I constantly have to give to. And that's a thing that people do as well. You sound like you had something to say, Steve.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I've developed a nice little trick. I love you and I will let you in, but I will not let this lower frequency in. So if you want to come in, you come in, at least with some decency. And that helps you separate the people who aren't authentic, who don't care about you.
And I think people should notice that too when...
And we're also cleansing the environment, of course, as you know, so we're absorbing energy and data constantly. So yeah, I'm not going to let anybody place any more that I need to process inside me. It's like I fought for the peace of the system and I will protect its integrity, type deal. I love feeling this love.
A lot of people lack confidence. And so it's easy to become a minion. And we don't mean like, it's easy to become a minion in cases because other people have placed themselves in a space of self-importance where you look at yourself and you're like, oh, I'm not that smart, or I can't, speak on a live, or I can't, teach other people. And you like begin to lower your importance and surround yourself by this one person who can become self-important. And I feel like it's so important to be around people that try to empower you instead of turn you into a minion and a follower. I know if you want to speak on that, if anybody has something to say about that.
Beta males.
There's this thing called an incel, the people who are involuntarily celibate versus a volcel, people who are voluntarily celibate. But incels seem to have the same language and the same type of attitudes. And they blame people for their problems. This is something we were learning this week.
Connecting to a human being for your approval who is still looking for their own approval is going to be very difficult. You cannot get the sustaining love, all of it that you need from all these different connections for approval. You have to go to your divine blueprint and that one space that holds that approval for you already. You have to have that thought, you know, I'm already approved as I am. I'm having a human experience. There's no need for me to feel this or that. God made me this way for a reason, because I fit in for a reason. But yes, getting your approval from the source instead of people, I kind of say, okay, well, what if you took a picture of a sunset and you sent it to a friend and you were really feeling that sunset and you want to convey the beauty? Nobody else can share that sunset with you but your creator, whether that be your higher self, whether that be God. To you, nobody can feel what you're feeling in that intimate relationship within you.
Someone said your personal force field. And then Dab after that, after if he talks about building your own personal force field, Dab, can you go into his Aquarius? What is it? Aquarius and Green Lantern aspects.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I have to dip out for.
Yeah. Sure.
So tell us about building your personal force field.
Talking to me? Okay. Basically, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's the will too. So you have if you are ascended and you understand how things works and you know it's gonna happen, you can will it to manifest it to happen, which Green Lantern is really key on doing. So I think he uses willpower, right? That's what he uses as far as what the lantern draws from. So
Yeah, basically his thoughts and his mind. And, you know, that's why I found like a lot of the ancient Egyptian mythology really cool, and how a lot of the stories lined up with Jesus Christ's story. And you find all these different stories in a different way, you know, and reading like, I believe it was the Emerald Tablets and the power of thought to vibrate yourself free. Things like that really became my focus for a while. Just to really figure myself out. As far as the force field, I do breath work in your nose, out your mouth equally. And in my mind, and I would say this for the person that's watching who wants to do it, I don't always use my hands, but I will take my hands like this and pretend like I'm holding a small basketball out in front of me.
wow.
And I will do breath work as this resonance or charge is being built, basically. And sometimes I will turn my hands to the side and I will do this.
Okay.
And I can add different memories, different timelines within myself that I want to cleanse out. This is like kind of like one of my cleansing techniques.
Okay.
But the idea is to connect with a high charge in your mind. So what I do is I'll go to how I feel in nature, and I'll start imagining nature. I'll start breathing it in, and I'm in that higher space, and this creates the higher charge. So when I'm done with that, I'll ask the Holy Spirit to enter my consciousness, which is basically to me is a pure spirit, a pure beam of light that comes down through the crown. And then I ask that law of one, that logos, that Christ, the singularity to expand within me. So the signal comes down, hits the spirit, expands, and I ask God to surround me. And this creates the image of the higher self taking formation. Now we have to sustain that. So we do breath work. What I do is a lot of thanks. Like I'll thank the trees. I'll try to go down a little list, just because if I know if I hit this little checklist of small things, thank you for my feet having no pain today. Thank you for being able to take this walk, that we're creating a higher resonance and a higher signal. And after a while, sustaining that, like our negative patterns we've sustained for years and years and years, you start to sustain that higher pattern and a higher intelligence. You discover more what's behind reality. But yes, it's a lot for talking about a force field. Asking to expand, you know, allow the light to come into me fully. I accept it. I offer my lower self, all my bad energy as a sacrifice to be changed. I ask this energy to come into me. I ask it to expand. And I ask it to hold as God surrounds me. In the breath work, you should be able to feel the energy, hopefully going from your root all the way up inside you with your vagus nerve, because you have like an intuitive module in your center and a neural interface, and you're receiving information in your gut, basically up to your heart, up to your mind. A lot of breath work, asking to expand, asking it to anchor around me, knowing it's happening. Like you were talking about, you have to know it for it to be made manifest.
Yeah, once you command that power, or you are aware that you can do this, then it's the level of frequency and vibration that you can maintain and will things.
Yeah. Another powerful one I was talking about earlier, asking the inner child to become present, seeing how you feel or how your feelings change when you do that. Then telling that inner child you're safe, you're loved, and feeling love, even if you have to trick your mind with a memory where, okay, you spent a Saturday with your kid and you were feeling really great and you love it. I'll pull up that memory just to bring in that vibration, and using your thoughts and memories is really big.
Yeah.
So it's the green lantern you were looking for, Dad.
I mean, yeah, it fits the description. I mean, if he's control of his reality, controlling what comes in, what comes out, and then being able to manifest this energy, that's definitely Green Lantern right there. I mean, that's Green Lantern without having the lantern. I mean, he is the lantern. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't have to go to another planet, to get your recharge. You just recharge from yourself. Boom. Now you're back at it. That's actually that's like an infinite energy in itself, man. So that's amazing.
That reminds me, because I know we've done, and I've seen the memories of other planets, that we've done this type of evolution and ascension on other worlds. A lot of us that have the knowledge, like all you guys.
Oh yeah.
So who is the Marvel representation of the Aquarius? It's interesting is that one thing that's interesting is that Steven has never done his astrology chart or anything like that. So it's fun because you've never done like a starseed journey or a past life reading or even an astrology chart. He's like, I exist.
I mean, I've looked at them, but I never put, at the time I needed everything I could spare for space in my processor, or it was going to burn out. And my mom doesn't know what time I was born, I don't think, because I've asked her. And that was something required. And somebody gave me, I guess, as much of a reading as you could at the time, but I didn't really remember it because of everything I was going through. But the starseed thing, to me, I was like, man, once you have enough confirmations and they tell you, then you know, because I was a big skeptic. That's important to know. I didn't believe any of this, until it happened to me and I walked through it.
I would say
if I can do it, anybody can. Sorry.
Yeah. You remind me of more like a Professor X, or maybe even Dr. Strange, the will. I mean, Dr. Strange, he knew exactly he just knew that, like, after he's seen everything, he had like one big DMT trip, and seen everything. Now he knew how things worked and operated. I think it's just like, once you've seen it for yourself and you've reached that plateau of ascension, now you can start utilizing your body, your skills, to start helping humanity. I mean, a lot of people still don't know what they can do, so the fact you're
exactly
aware,
showing them how,
right.
Showing them that you can move by creating the charges and controlling your emotions through different dimensions of reality.
Right. And you got to look at also Professor X. He also had a school for the mutants to learn their abilities. So if it relates to that aspect, I mean, he uses mental willpower to create things you know, so that would be another person I would probably put in the character as. If
I would
was
like
aboard
to
of
have a
Professor
school
X.
one day. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like-
there you go. There you go.
not a school, but maybe out in the woods where people of all sexes, genders, races, religions can come and feel God and connect in that way. You can have a day for kids, a day for elderly,
Right.
a
That'd
day
be awesome.
for ceremonies, things like that. You know, be the old man in the woods with the gray beard.
That's awesome. Yeah, I see it as that. It's what you can teach, and I guess once you get into a higher ascension, and I think Jermaine can match me on this one. You get wisdom. I don't know which density the wisdom comes in. I think it's 5th density, but
Yeah, 5th density. 5th density is wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So-
6th density is love, light. That when they talk about love and light, that's 6th density conscious.
Okay.
So like,
Density is truth, and that's where we need to start because people need to start telling the truth, right?
Yeah, I want to hear more about this.
well, like when people say love and light, you know, because me, if everybody know about me, I always bump head with light workers. Well, because we in 3rd density, well, we moving out of 3rd density now into 4th, because the physics is changing now. So, like I say, love and light, light unity is 6th density conscious. So when people was trying to do love and light in 3rd density, where you got fear and ego dominating, it's like you're drowning yourself, you know, in this, because people out there just think they can love anybody, and you know, think they just, you know, they say, oh, I love you and all this, and no, we dealing with, of course, duality, the dark side that has an agenda. There's a darkness out there that has an agenda for the whole universe. They want to enslave souls in the universe. So, and then like with the like when people say, oh yeah, I create my reality, well, we co-create. You know, even the ETs in there telling us we co-create. It's like competing wheels. It ain't like what you desire is going to be there. You got other people around, you got desires too. And then all that together become the product of the timeline we experience. So, so like I said, that's when you love and light, which is love, light, unity, that's unity consciousness. That's when you in 6th density. So we was operating more in unity consciousness down here. Then you could sit there and do love and light without having to deal with ego and fear, you know, because ego is like, oh yeah, I don't know if I can trust anybody. Me, you know. And of course, fear fuels the ego and also fuels the dark side. But yeah, I'm done.
Very interesting, because we're already ascending. I mean, I think technically now we are at the precipice of 4th density, because we have a lot of people who are now having these manifestations happen quickly, and then you know, we have people who are still stuck in 3rd density who don't want to let go of 3rd density. So that
and
fear
they fall into the dark side.
Right, and that's why you have this struck duality. But in 4th density, there's still a duality. You still have 4th density negative beings. You still have polarity. When you get to the 5th density, there's no polarity. It's only positive love vibration after the 5th density. But 4th density negative still exists. It's just that once you get to that density or vibration, you're conscious of an overwhelming being or source or God or an energy that exists, and you make that inherent decision if you're going to be service to yourself or service to others. And that's like the fork in the road when you get to once you get to that level of consciousness. So we're all in 4th density right now. We're at the bridge right now, 4th density. I think most of us have been in 4th density for years, but like most of humanity is just now getting into that. So that's where you start seeing energy transfers and manifestations faster, and the beings or paranormal start showing up. You start seeing the men behind the curtain type deal, and it's actually pretty cool to see, because I mean this is never. I don't remember in anybody's lifetime it's alive this is happening. So to the fullest.
Another thing is happening. People are having to change their heart. Literally having to change your heart. They also. And this since September 9th, because there's a portal opening up that connects back to a Stargate opening up, where wisdom which is fifth density coming in. So a lot of people after September 9th, if this is all accurate, they supposed to suddenly start getting wise. And I think we're starting to see some evidence of that because a lot of the operations of the Earth Alliance seem to be starting to wind down to where they're about to do the final move and take these motherfuckers out. Finally, we can finally get fucking free from this bullshit,
Right.
and we can finally join the galaxy. Right. And we don't have to sit here and speculate and interview people about what the fuck is going on in the paranormal or the ET stuff. We were ready to go do it ourselves, get in the fucking ship, go fucking transmit and shift density to a time portal. And then we can sit there, contact the paranormal, whatever, ourselves. Instead of sitting here like, well, what's your experience? And then we got to live vicariously through somebody. Yeah, they need to hurry the fuck up upstairs because this shit is just dragging on too fucking long. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's becoming, I mean, now there's a lot of people like how Jermaine's saying it, they've ascended past the level of, okay, well, we already know all this exists. So what's next? Let's co-create our reality now. And, you know, I think what they're trying to do is wait because they need a certain amount of people, if not all of the people in humanity, to all do it at once. And
Yeah, people online in a way.
Yeah. It's consciously making that effort to jump, but
So
I mean,
forming
there's
a
enough
high,
people awake.
helping them evolve, basically forming a higher consciousness for humanity to anchor to.
Yeah.
It
Like,
really is getting to the point where this person does a card reading, that person does a card reading, that person does reading, and it's like, oh, they're the same. I had a dream, she had a dream, he had a dream. It's the same. It's getting to the point where, like I say, before we were walking around thinking we were walking to the beat of a different drum. But now we're walking into this area where it's like, wait a minute, we're all listening to 103.3. We're all listening to the same song. We're all actually on the same frequency. And it's like, oh my God, thank God I found you. Like, I'm not lost anymore. And now that the network is getting so thick where we're just actually feeling and thinking the same. We want to be honest. We want to be true. We want to be pure. We want to be connected to the truth. We want to help. We want to heal, you know, and those forces are starting to connect. And
synchronizing on the same time now.
Synchronized. I think
Right.
about the show.
Our thoughts are our biggest weapon. So they can control our thoughts, they already won. But if we have control of our thoughts, we can control our reality. That's pretty much how I see it. How I see this
Control the whole
That's
fucking
why,
Yep.
right. So it's just like,
that's why we got to get the nervous system clear and maintain it.
right.
Yeah. And I never heard that the neural hijacking, it connects to what Jermaine said before about people who are having low self-esteem and who have not healed from their trauma. And here you are with the word neural hijacking, basically connecting that, this is what we call it, neural hijacking. You're connecting to that negative frequency, that unhealed trauma, to keep sending it out through the nervous system.
Right. And then there's, of course, the extra dimensional entities who want you in that state. So they're going to feed you thoughts. They're going to, you know, through the TV, and it gets into that agenda again. And that's why it all comes down to claiming that sovereignty, that sacred space. I am a sacred system and nobody's in control but me, you know. You have authority over every energy in every dimension. You just have to believe it.
Because you know, there's television shows that are made with supposedly with this idea that we're showing you the good and the bad so that you can choose the good. I mean, but then you can see it, because I can get in arguments with people about John Singleton and Boys in the Hood, and they're like, these were some of the best movies. And I'm like, actually, no, it wasn't. Because you normalized the negative activity. This wasn't something that was universal in every city. Where here now I can watch, you know, people watch Boys in the Hood and they're like, oh, they don't actually gravitate towards the good. They don't gravitate towards the one guy, the one Lone Ranger guy. They actually grab in. It might not resonate with you, but it's like, wait a minute, look how many people, 60% of the people actually gravitated to the negative person in the movie. And it spread that negativity.
Oh yeah, when they killed Ricky, yeah, everybody wanted to kill the motherfuckers to kill Ricky. Ricky, no.
Oh, yeah, go hijack
They
a
want to
car
get
in
him.
the
Everybody
drive-thru.
watch that
That's
movie
the
want to get that
cool thing to
motherfucker who
do.
shot Ricky.
So they're actually they were thinking out these television shows with the pretense of, no, we're just trying to show you what our life is really like, you know, and you're wondering why when you get on a bus next to an Asian person, they're scared of you because you're Black, because they've seen Boys in the Hood. That's all they ever seen of that person.
Yeah, it's programming. Yep.
I remember that.
Yeah, like you're wondering why people are prejudiced. Why? It's because of the fucking programming that you have. You know, we've been programmed and told that this is what normal is.
Right.
Oh, all Black women aren't, you know, I have people tell me to calm down. And I'll be like, bitch, I am calm.
Like you angry all the time or something. Like you
Angry Black woman.
You see me angry. Like, this isn't angry. This is
This
just
is her. This is just you.
It's just me being funny. I'm telling a
I know.
joke. This is the emphasis.
But that's the programming that you want to say.
Right, they're like, oh my God, angry Black woman on the left side. You know?
Yeah, like she's animated, you know. But
Yeah, I'm
are.
animated, but not like that, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, this television, but it's amazing how we can watch TV. Like for me, I watch to dissect, and I want to see and compare if things are factual. Like I'm a person that watches things, and I want to see if this event was real, and I want to look it up and find out if it's true. But other people are watching so that they can imitate and find out what is cool to act like when they go to work the next day or something.
You know, it's like if you put
really
so much data into people, you know, you get enough resonation on anger, enough resonation on hate, and they see it on the TV. They play the video games growing up. At some point, it has to go somewhere, and it's going to have to come out, you know, whether it's by healing or projection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see some people going through that right now. So, well, I know. So they're taking what they've been soaking in, and they have to like now get it out. And the best way to get it out is to
we just hit 200.
Excellent.
Celebration time. Woo.
It's like we're passing through a vibrational strainer, and we're all spaghetti. And some people are
right.
Yeah.
Right.
What are they? Because the spaghetti gets, you know, that's the good part. What goes through the bottom of the
I guess the spaghetti water.
Our energy just goes down the drain.
You just was too, you know. And I think this is a great time right now. And it'll look like a bad time as well. Like it can look, like they say, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, right? This is time of people who have a foundation and have a firm foundation in who they are and what they believe are strong. And the people who are still looking, they're just like, you know, they're running around trying to find out what is right and what to believe in.
It's like Star Wars, control the weak-minded.
Like a Jedi.
Yeah.
Or you're just gonna be another Starship Trooper.
Yeah, that was
they got killed. Didn't they all die in that movie? Didn't they all die?
Not all of them died.
I thought they all died. I thought
Johnny didn't die.
Johnny didn't die.
What were the non-Jedi people? You wouldn't be a droid, or what are the other people in Star Wars?
NPC, Stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Like a clone, you're just a regular. Like,
oh yeah, they got clones. Little thing. Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't want to be a clone. I want to be an original human being with my own thoughts and my own ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to have an experience and experience reality, you know?
The original human being was 12-strand DNA access potential. It can jump densities, what we call ascension. It was nothing special back then. That's the original human being. That's what they call the angelic.
Quantum Leap out here. Quantum Leap. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just watching it.
Yeah, I used to watch that
exactly
too.
what that is.
Yeah.
You just jumping. You
I
can
mean,
just
shit.
another vibration.
Siobhan is in the chat. That's Blu-ray ATF. That's Siobhan.
Hi, Siobhan.
Hello, Siobhan. So
Hey, Blu-ray.
this is the quantum leap is exactly what you're talking about as far as that's concerned. I mean, that's almost similar. I mean, he's just changing time, but I mean, time's only constructed to what we know. I mean, for all we know, he could have been shifting densities, times, universes, and that whole aspect. But that's what it pretty much was. He's conscious of all that.
Juchin number 200. Y'all still talk. You just ignore me. Michelle Stone, did you subscribe, girl? Because I'm watching you. Did you just
Got eyes on you. Got eyes on you.
Then you can
rocking. You
you
guys
can
are
throw in a lot of references to the Matrix in there too. You know.
Oh yes, yes. That was a documentary. I don't think it was a movie. They try to show us really what they have, and then it ties into a lot of Donald Marshall's testimony. So that stuff's interesting.
great information. You guys can keep talking, but in the meantime, Stephen, tell us how to find you. I'm putting it in the chat, but you could just shout it out loud for those because they might be just driving along when they're listening.
Okay. You can go to Trinity Quantum Health. Hopefully I said that clearly. Trinity, TRINITY, Quantum, QUANTUM, Health, HEALTH, TrinityQuantumHealth.com. You can email me at Trinity Healing Reiki, which is an older email, but trinityhealingreiki@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. I'm not sure of the exact address, but Trinity Healing Reiki on Facebook. And yeah, feel free to send me a message on any of those.
Soldier's Voice was giving you a shout out because her daughter's name is Trinity. And Astros, Plagarians, our other walk-in said, Operation Wake the Fuck Up 2020.
That's
So it was great talking to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for giving me the space for telling my story. And at least sharing with you guys and connecting with you guys.
Yeah, like really on a personal level, because it's really good to know who you are. Girl, you're
honor.
Okay, we heard you say it's an honor. What else you got, Marvel Bliss?
Siobhan says she's subscribed.
I just wanted to thank him, but I'm breaking up a lot, so I just want to thank him. It was an honor listening to all this. I'm gonna have to rewatch this.
Yeah,
I never rewatch our videos, but I'm gonna rewatch this one and make a point to
I'm going to study that.
Really process.
Oh, they cut the Archon.
Archon's attacking her. Yeah. I'm at to study that the information you was talking about, how your abilities was working, how you say you feel people and you can. That was really interesting. I'm at to study that.
I'm gonna have to study it too because I don't remember what I said half the time. It just comes through. I'll have to rewatch it myself.
Hey, at least you honest. At least you honest with me. All right?
It's like a charge builds up and I talk.
I know. My sister asks me stuff all the time. She was like, "Remember the time you was telling that really cool story?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
Get that instant download.
That is it, and it's like, phew, that's it. Space and time. That's it.
Yeah, that's why I write a lot of things down. You know, it's like always have something to write it on and go back to.
Are we doing a shuttle ride tonight or what?
Yeah, we
can do a shuttle ride tonight.
Shuttle ride with your mate.
Woo! Elena, I'm gonna take you out at the shuttle ride.
Party on the shuttle.
I think on the shuttle
when we go back to Telegram and we continue to talk a lot of stuff. So you sound like you just really you fit in our order, in our space. So we're gonna have to check you out.
Well, I am you.
Yes.
There you go. Mind blown.